What's up, guys? The Ford CEO just announced that he expects that 50% of white-collar jobs are going to be gone over the next few years. And if you're like me, that's a big deal because we got to generate money, guys. We got bills to pay. We have families to feed. But look, before you go back to college, before you decide to spend money on that college degree, heck, if you're like me and you're a father of some kids, you might be wondering if it's even worth sending them to college. Get this, 55% of the largest employers in the United States, they've removed the university job requirement. It's not like when we were growing up, when you had to go to college, you had to get you had to get a house, you had to build wealth. It was the surefire. It doesn't work like that anymore, guys. And if you're a young kid thinking about going to college, you need to listen up because Google, Apple, Walmart, they don't care about your diploma. They care about whether you can do the job. But here's the catch. You need to be able to do the job. There's some skills that you're going to need. And in this video, we're going to kind of break down some of these trends. We're going to look at some of the numbers behind employment and where university stands. And we're going to talk about what we actually should be thinking about when it comes to being a relevant part of the world's workforce. Whether you're a business owner, whether you're going to college, I think this will be really, really interesting and important to you. All right, because the reality is this is the biggest shift since the Industrial Revolution, bar none, since the printing press. I keep talking about it. I mean, you're talking about the World Economic Forum anticipates 200 million jobs are displaced over the next 5 years. That's insane, guys. That's insane. The world's going to look so different. So we need to start upskilling now. You need to start upskilling now. And by the way, if you're one of these uppity coders or software engineers and you're saying like, oh, you don't know what I know, you didn't go to MIT, you didn't get a college degree, we don't care. 55% of employers don't care. I'm not saying that like understanding software architecture and web development is not important. What I am saying is that everything is being reset right now, and there's a chance for average, ordinary, semi-intelligent people like myself to really come up. Because with mass disruption comes mass opportunity, boys, and that's what we are going to leverage. So here's an interesting stat. In 2025, only 33% of employers said that their graduates, that their people that they employ fresh out of college were job ready. Okay, so what does that mean? They were talking about this on the All In podcast the other day. You're bringing in someone who just graduated from college. They have $150,000 in student loan debt, which cannot be eliminated under any circumstance. Federally backed. We're not going to talk about all that right now, but the reality is all these kids are graduating from college with all this debt and they're not even ready to work in the workplace. You're not even ready to work in the workplace. You might know a lot about feminism, but you're not actually going to be able to provide real solutions to real problems. So what happens is 33% or the other 66% of these employers are like, okay, you're fresh out of college, great. Now we're ready to teach you how to do the job. And that's an insanely massive problem. And my stance here is that it's much better to learn on the job in doing than rather by going to school. I'm not saying that going to a university is dead, but that's what some of the data is showing here. But what I am saying is that you learn a lot more by doing than by just reading, okay? Not that reading's not important. Reading is important. I know I'm giving you a lot of buts here. I'll give you an example. Back when I was in elementary, middle, high school, I took Spanish every year. It was required. I lived in South Florida and we needed to learn Spanish. I'll tell you what, I couldn't speak hardly any Spanish. I had memorized a bunch of words maybe, but I could not speak in Spanish. I remember, I think it was the junior year of high school, my Spanish teacher said, hey guys, this is the last English you're ever gonna hear me speak. Everything else is gonna be in Spanish. I was like, oh crap, I'm gonna fail this class. So anyway, I didn't learn any Spanish after years and years and years of school. However, I started working in a restaurant after high school in the kitchen. Guys, I learned Spanish in like 2 weeks. I was speaking Spanish with the cooks. Yo hablo español. I didn't speak it very good. They made fun of me, but I could at least communicate. So at any rate, my point is that you learn a lot more doing. And this brings me to my larger point and where I'm at right now in my entrepreneurial journey is upskilling. So I may be serving clients during the day, working on projects during the day for clients. But at night, I'm spending 1, 2, maybe 3 hours on the computer, using Replit, building software, learning about the architecture. It does not cost a lot of money. And these skills, my friends, are going to be very, very valuable Very, very valuable because you know, I don't want to take anything away from blue collar jobs, but those blue collar jobs are really, really hard. And the older you are, the harder they're going to be to complete. I used to work in the AC field and I was getting zapped and shocked. I was taking risks, climbing on top of buildings, carrying really heavy compressors up sketchy ladders. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And you might say, Mark, that's what I want to do. Mazel tov, we need that. It's really important. But the older you are, it's the harder it's going to be to put that kind of strain on your body. So learning these skills now is going to help you to be very competitive in your existing role or maybe in the next role. So let's keep looking at this. Companies like IBM, Dell, Accenture, they removed degree requirements years ago, and that's only going faster. Walmart's 2025 job description updates: no degree required if you can prove skills. Employers do not care where you went to college, my friends. They do not care. They only care that you can actually get the job done. And what's interesting here is what AI is doing. AI is not necessarily taking jobs, it's filtering out the people that don't have the necessary skills to compete in the workplace. And what AI is also doing is it's doing here, guys, is it's replacing those repetitive, low intelligence skills. I think it's going to go higher, but it's repeating these low skill, highly repetitive, highly replaceable roles. And I was just on a meeting earlier today, and we were talking about the CMO for a fractional CMO for a software company, an Amazon software company. And we were talking about some of the roles in the organization, and the question was, well, what does this person do? Came up. And we're like, well, we could probably just automate that. And you don't want people talking about you like that. You don't want people talking about you like that. Here's something that I like to do on a monthly basis with all my clients is I send them a summary of all the tasks that I performed that month. You know, any software that I implemented, any automation that I've implemented. I'm constantly trying to, this may sound weird, but I'm constantly trying to eliminate the tasks that I need to do and automate them away. And what's cool about that is every month I'm able to automate more and more and more and more, and I'm able to find new problems to solve. And you know, every month, if at least this is my experience, as I continue to do that, I become more valuable to the company because they realize that I'm kind of replacing myself. So I think that's kind of the role, and I know it's hard to do that, but that's my stance: is how can I implement AI and automation to replace myself? How can I develop softwares to solve problems so I can do my job much more quickly? A lot of people are on level 1, which is just using ChatGPT to write emails and stuff, which is great, but you should be using programs like Replit, like Lovable, which are essentially vibe coding softwares, where you can, I've recorded a couple of videos on this, but I'll just briefly explain it again. You basically tell Replit what you want and it writes the code for you. So you don't need to understand how to write JavaScript or JSON or any of these coding languages. You don't need them. You just tell it what to do in English, and if you're clear, it'll write the code for you. And by the way, they just had an update this week where it's just getting better and better and better, and the cost is coming down for a lot of the functionality. So Replit, super cool program that I'm using and having a lot of fun with. So anyway, what are the roles that are skyrocketing right now? So if what are the roles that are skyrocketing? What do you want to be learning about? IT, prompt engineering. I didn't even know prompt engineering was a thing 2 years ago. Now it's like one of the biggest words in the world. And prompt engineering is kind of like I just was mentioning with Replit. You give the AI program a description in English, and it goes out and it executes or writes the code and builds out. It executes on what you've asked it to do. So prompt engineering, big deal. You don't need a college degree for prompt engineering, guys. You just need practice and experience. AI tool integration, cybersecurity, I think, is an interesting one. It seems like more and more people I know are getting into cybersecurity. This is a really interesting one. None of these, by the way, require degrees. They just require you understanding what to do. And again, if you're practicing for an hour or two a night while you're on the couch, chatting with your wife, doing this in between, you can actually get the equivalent of a college degree times 10 just by doing. Just by doing. Okay, keep reading, but definitely be a doer. So cybersecurity, this is interesting. There were 1 million cybersecurity jobs in 2013. Now it's up to 3.5 million jobs in 2025. And according to Statista, 750,000 are unfilled. And I don't see this going anywhere. Cybersecurity is only going to become more and more important in my estimation. Is it going to Go from 3.5 to 7 to 15 million. I don't know, but that is going to continue to arise. And by the way, one of the things that I've talked about in the past that I think is important is that, and we see this with Microsoft. I just recorded a video. I'll put a link to this video up here today. Microsoft just laid off 4% of its workforce, and some of the people in the comments, some great comments by the way, some of the people in the comments mentioned that, well, what they're doing is they're allocating a lot of those jobs to people overseas. Okay, so that's another thing you want to be thinking about is what makes me different from an overseas employee? Is it my understanding of American culture? Is it the way I speak English? Is it the way, is it how prompt I am to get things done? Is it my communication skills? Is it the way is it the value that I can bring by going to in-person events or conferences? All things to be thinking about. And in cybersecurity, a big part of that is trust. Am I trustworthy? If I'm working for a small or medium-sized business, I might not necessarily trust hiring a freelancer in India for cybersecurity, but you might be more hireable. But you have to bring the right skills to the table, and you need to know what you're talking about. You need to know what you're doing. So here are some, we talked about these high-value, no-degree skills paths: AI tools and automation, prompt engineering, cybersecurity, etc. And and I've kind of just said, go upskill just by doing, and I would still agree with that. I'll post a link to this video too. There's 2 videos for you to check out, but I'll post up another link to a video up here, which kind of goes through the process that I'm going through in developing different softwares and automations using AI to solve my problems. I think that'll be helpful. So that's one way. Be a doer. But there's other things you can do too. You can upskill without college by getting certifications. There's a lot of certifications out there. Google Career certificates, CompTIA certificates. There's a lot of different certification programs out there. And I'm not here to sell you one. Maybe one day I will, but now it's not that day. I'm too busy with other projects here. But go through a certification program. Learn from someone who's done something before. Just make sure they're credible, make sure they're not regurgitating stuff. But this is, I think, where becoming a doer is valuable, because if you're a doer, you can prove results. Other people want to learn from those results. Apprenticeship. Accenture, Bank of America both have different apprenticeship platforms. So, again, if you're in your 40s or 50s, you might not be able to take an apprenticeship. But certainly if you're a kid and you're thinking about, do I take out a $150,000 loan to go to this prestigious college, or do I just go through an apprenticeship program where I can actually learn the field that I'm interested on hand and get paid for it? That might be a better path. We talked about real world experience, so I'm not going to keep harping on that. But online communities, whether it's Reddit or X or subscribe to my newsletter, the AI Update, there are a lot of communities and resources out there to learn. I mean, there are some really good YouTube channels on coding and software development and cybersecurity. Start building stuff. And again, if this last suggestion is probably not an option for everyone, but if I was really struggling to get my feet and I didn't have any resources and I really need to build these skills, I might even offer to do stuff for free for people, because then you're getting the real world experience. Let's say you dedicate 6 months to doing work for free for an organization, company, small business. Then you can go to the next employer and say, hey, look what I did. Here's my resume. So all this kind of revolves, because to me, as an employer, as someone who hires a bunch of freelancers all over the place, and I have a bunch of subcontractors that I work with to complete projects, I really want to look at, like, what have you done? Who have you worked for? It's one of the, who do you have any references? Because if your reference is, well, I got a degree from Harvard in this particular topic, that's like, okay, that's cool, but A, you're going to have an unrealistic expectation. I don't know if y'all have seen this the other day, but Bernie Sanders had a proposal that, hey, AI is going to be so efficient and so great that we should everyone just have a 4-day work week. And I mean, that sounds great, but I just don't think that's the way that the world works. And I think this is the worst point in human history to be saying you want a 4-day work week or you want to work less. I'm not saying you can't have fun. I love shooting these videos. I have a lot of fun. I get paid a little bit too. But regardless, this is not the time to get sleepy. This is the time to double down. The next 18 months are really critical, y'all. So again, just to kind of bring this all around full circle, before you go and get that college degree, while you're thinking about how to upskill, I hope that these tools and these ideas are going to give you some perspective on where the job market is now and how you can remain a very viable, important member of society, because the reality is your kids need you, your family needs you, your wife sure as hell needs you. And if you're not able to, 50% of the white collar workforce gone, 200 million jobs displaced, Microsoft lays off 4% of its workforce, Amazon just laid off 100,000 workers. Amazon actually, and I recorded another video on this, I'll put that link, I'm just giving you all these links. Amazon just surpassed, they have now more robots working in their warehouses than humans. And what's crazy to me is I posted a video about this 6 months ago, that this type of thing was happening. And I got a comment from a guy who's like, no, they'll never replace me, I'm too valuable. Think again, Batman. Just like that college degree, everything's replaceable. I'll see you next video.